So, hello everyone. This is Julie Murphy with Arizona Farm Bureau. It's Friday. It's 10 o'clock. That means it's Talk to a Farmer Friday. And I'm here with one of the most amazing farm families, representatives, and we've known each other all our lives, and we have all sorts of stories we could tell. You know, I need to come back just to ask about grain R&D a little bit more, because that in itself is a story.
Another story.
But my guest today for this ongoing series, we're in part series 2, is Steve Sossaman. And the series has to do with the future of Arizona agriculture. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. And I wanted a lot of voices, and I wanted the Sossaman's voices, because if you see the sign behind us, you guys have celebrated, as of 2019, 100 years of continuous farming in your family.
Yep.
So let's talk about it. And we're going to launch right into the futuristic questions, but we might even get to dabble with talking about Sossaman Farms and some of the amazing stories in your farm family. But right off the bat, what's your take with the future of Arizona agriculture?
Well, the future of Arizona agriculture, we have to look at just the whole state. We don't look at just Maricopa County. I know it's difficult sometimes because we sit in this urban environment and we see a field here and there. But we forget that Arizona is very diverse when it comes to the crops we grow, the cattle, the dairy, the orchard, the pecans, the citrus. And we're thinking, wait a minute, you know, why is Arizona so productive? Well, we're in a desert. We control our inputs, which is water, and we get sunshine. Well, yesterday's not a good example, but normally we get sunshine about 360 days a year. And that is what makes us a productive state. And we get to control that. So even right now, here we are in the middle of the winter, I would say close to 80 to 90% of all the lettuce that's being consumed in America is coming from our state, down in Yuma.
It's amazing.
It's like, really? All of it? Well, what about California? Well, if you've been reading the news, California has some water issues right now, like too much, and they get cool over there. But yes, California does produce a lot. But
it's the pendulum swing, I've been told. In the winter, it's us. In the winter, it's Maricopa County, Yuma. Pinal County is starting to grow more vegetables. And then that pendulum swing goes back in the summer to California.
Exactly. So we have a nice a balance of how we produce, when we produce. And we also have the infrastructure here in Arizona to move those crops around. We have rail, we have trucking, we have freeways. We have good water sources. Now, I know water's been in the news a lot. We'll get to that. We'll get to that water.
It's my last question.
I know. We don't, you know, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. Okay, we're off track here. Future. We also have what I consider a very innovative educational part of our state with the Arizona State University, University of Arizona. I know that's that school down south. But anyway, it's land-grant college.
ASU alum here, both of
ASU,
us.
go Devils. Anyway, we can learn from each other.
Right.
But with all that infrastructure in place and the institutions, we have a great place to produce food and fiber and innovation. For example, and when it comes to grain, we're one of the few states that require us to grow certified grain. We can't just grow grain and just sell it to our neighbors. So guess what happens is we have companies come to Arizona specifically to breed their varieties, specialty varieties of wheat and barley, because they know they'll be protected. Where other states, you go and you go and invent a new variety, it's free. People can keep it and sell it to their neighbors.
Oh, wow.
So it's called a brown bag law. But anyway, that's one of the things that Arizona is good about. Now, other thing, durum wheat. We grow durum wheat here for pasta. #1 in the world, the highest quality desert durum in the world. People come here for that. So that says something about our varieties, our business environment, and also our climate. So future-wise, yes, I believe that we will still continue to have agriculture in Arizona.
Yes.
And innovative agriculture also. We just won't see so much of it in our urban cores. And that's, you know, where I am today. I'm totally surrounded by houses, have been for several years. And the difficulty in this is moving equipment, getting custom equipment to come in, do harvesting, and it makes it more difficult. So where's it going to go? Well, it goes into the other counties, outlying counties, where there's more room, more space, easier to move equipment around, and you get closer to the consumer. Oh, who's the consumer? A dairy cow. Dairy cows a consumer? Absolutely. They love corn, they love cottonseed, they love alfalfa, and that is where you go to do that. Now, go to Yuma. I mean, citrus and lettuce and all kinds of vegetables down there. Again, less dense urban-wise, but very diverse in the agriculture.
Right.
And our soils are great here.
So we can't give up on it, nor can innovation give up on it. And really what you guys have done with grain R&D, you have created a niche in this urban environment. Yeah, coming out here, you and I were born in Arizona, so we saw this before it got populated, and it's just amazing to see all the growth around it. But because of the innovation of families like you, creating something like grain R&D, we're still able to do some amazing urban farming. Yeah. I would classify this sort of kind of as urban farming because you're right in the middle of it.
Yep. And I think part of that is over time, we did not get stuck in a rut of doing one thing on this farm. We kind of evolved over time. We started out growing vegetables to supply the mines back in the 20s and 30s, and then evolved to more cotton and grain and a dairy and other things like that. And now it's more urban, gone to corn and to alfalfa, which is low impact and what I would call not messy, because it's very calm. It's like mowing your lawn. You water it, you cut it, and where other crops become like cotton, is kind of dusty and complicated,
long growing season.
Long growing season. So anyway, those are the things you have to evolve with. And talking about future, I think the current generation and the next generation are a lot more innovative, and they have access to more technology to be innovative. What hurts agriculture over time, long run, is what I call legacy practices. Well, my grandfather did it this way, my dad did it this way, so I'm going to do it this way. That's not a good way to think about what your business is like. You need to evolve your business, stay up with technology, and you can be an innovator, because us pioneers have arrows in our back, but there's called the cutting edge and the bleeding edge. So you can always let somebody else try it and see what they think, and if you feel confident, you jump in. And I've always tried to be that guy on the front end to try something. So I was one of the first guys here. Well, anyway, got an award for it. But anyway, for doing minimum tillage in Arizona. Nobody was doing it. And so then to even go beyond that, and so I ordered a piece of equipment, and they go, well, we've never sold one of these outside, west of the Mississippi. And I said, well, I think it's going to work. Okay, and if you don't want it, you have to send it back, but it's going to cost you the freight. I'm like, I'm fine. So I get it, and it's the most perfect piece of equipment, tillage for minimum tillage on level borders, and so saves time, money, fuel, and it's great for the soil.
Yeah, and now other farmers are doing it. Yeah. So maybe in that instance, you were the bleeding edge, but you survived it.
Yeah, and I think it comes with, innovation comes with a lot of research on the front end.
Right.
And so...
And I think you're the one that says, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you advocate, always talk to people and always ask questions and learn and listen from them.
Yeah.
Again, I'm paraphrasing on that. Station identification. This is Steve Sossaman with Sossaman Farms, a legacy farm of 100 plus years old, and also grain R&D. And I'm Julie Murphy with Arizona Farm Bureau. This is our weekly Talk to a Farmer Friday. Joel, my guru with the camera and everything else, although we're just using telephone here because it's Instagram. But any questions from anyone? That's good. We'll just continue, but feel free, for those that have joined us live, if you have questions, you can post in the comments section, and even if we don't have an answer today, we can look it up and try to figure out something for you. So the other thing I was going to ask is, to you, from your perspective, everything you've experienced, what's the most pressing issue in ag business today? I know the water issues, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, policy, technology, generational transition. So to you, what do you feel like is the most critical and or are they all critical?
Yeah. Well, I think water is the most critical, but let's set that aside for now. Because if I'm in Yuma growing vegetables, it's not an issue because there's plenty of water on the Colorado River in that area. But I think another overriding issue, and this will touch every enterprise, and that's generational transition. And I've studied this, I've read books on this, and I could write some chapters myself because I've even counseled some other family farm generational groups and families on this. And it all goes back to setting up an enterprise that can have a life of its own beyond you. So you're like, wait a minute. Well, yeah, the average age of farmers in America is like over 60. Well, wait a minute. That's, yeah, because they're famous for having their hands on the farm until they can't even
until they die.
Until they die.
Yeah. Let's just be clear.
Let's be clear about that. So that's an issue. Sons and daughters that come into the business, they can only handle that heavy hand for so long.
Yeah.
Because you're independent, you're young, you've got new ideas, better ideas, and it's hard. So as a parent or grandparent, ease up. You know, find your way away from that farm and ease out of it.
Oh, I like that way. That find your way away from the farm.
Yes. And there are many ways, many paths to do that with counseling, with volunteering, with only being at those meetings once a month with everybody else. And hey, I'm here for counsel. And so that's it. And also,
is that your story?
That's my story.
Ease away.
I'm trying to ease away. I waited for a few years before I invited my son-in-law to see if he wanted to work for me. Because think of the other side of the pressure. Oh my goodness, the obligation of a family member. Like, oh, he's asked me to work for him. It's family. I can't say no.
Sure.
Oh, and they're not, so that's not good. Because I've seen that happen a lot of times. They're just doing it out of obligation. Don't do anything out of obligation.
Right.
Be upfront and open. Now, the other part, family members who are not engaged in the enterprise, but they have ownership. I mean, literal ownership of the land. And how have you set up your estate plan?
You have to respect their take on things.
And so you have to iron all that out. Why the older generation is still around. That's hard to talk to the older generation themselves because they're talking about death and what's next. And we need to embrace the idea of call it generational planning versus, so what are you going to do when grandpa dies? Yeah, nobody wants to talk about it. Yeah. So, because we're all going there, but getting there is important, and to counsel how that happens. So, decide on who has their skills and their strong points, their weak points, and talk about it openly. And the number one thing is communication. Communication, back and forth. It doesn't matter what you talk about as long as you're engaging each other. And that for generational, that's very, very important to keep the enterprise going. Now, some other things that are facing agriculture, innovation, and a lot of this technology that is coming out that you read about is very, AI, water sensing, drones in the field. That kind of technology is very expensive, and it lends itself more to, say, high value production, which is like vegetables and fruits and things like that, where it doesn't happen as much with cotton and grain and alfalfa. It's because those are more low value. So when we read about this stuff, think about the areas that can use it. Yeah. So, and don't go out there and spend a bunch of money if you're just growing a low value crop. Yeah. Water. Where everybody loves to talk about water. The state of Arizona is the innovator, the most advanced when it comes to water management in the whole country.
Why?
Because we started back in water. It's always been a tight subject here in Arizona. Water has always been a shortage that we're sharing. And we have the lake system, and we have the river, and we have underground water that we've been storing for years, massive aquifers underneath our valley here. And so the idea is, if agriculture is using 70% of the water, and that's kind of a national number, here in Arizona is no different, then obviously they're the ones that, hey, you guys need to cut back. Well, yes, and participate in the argument here. Cities is a little easier. Once you pump that water out, you drink it, goes down a drain. You flush a toilet, goes down a drain. It goes to a treatment plant. It gets recycled.
It's recycled.
Right back out. And so Arizona's been innovative in that and saying, okay, we're going to take that water and we're going to use it for landscaping because we have landscaping and we need to put something on there.
Right.
And then that goes back in the ground. It gets filtered through the Vado zone and back in. It gets pumped back out, pure and clean.
Yeah.
Because we use our own filtration system to do it. So we can recycle that water over and over once it's out. Where agriculture, we're doing that now as an irrigation district, since we don't really have guaranteed rights to the Colorado River anymore. So what we do is we're contract with Indian tribes, cities, other organizations, mining companies, and we take their water and we recycle it for them. So we
awesome.
Irrigate with other people's water because they need to put it in the ground to store it.
And we even learned just this week. I learned just this week. You already knew it, I know, because you're a farmer. That alfalfa is a water bank, especially in the winter, because the roots are so deep. They can really store the water and still use it even when conditions are kind of drought-like during the summer when we don't have as much water.
Alfalfa actually is one of the most efficient crops that we can grow anywhere because of the amount of biomass that we get off of that is greater than any other crop. And it also is a legume, so it fixes its own nitrogen in the soil. And it's very deep-rooted. And getting back to a little bit of grain R&D, where we grow these ancient grains that all came from the Fertile Crescent. I'll let your viewers figure out where that is. But I'll mention Egypt being one of them, and that these grains came from there. And they are extremely deep-rooted grains.
Right, same thing.
Just like alfalfa. I mean, like 8 and 10, 12 feet for root systems and, low water use, but high in flavor because of all the minerals they're picking up from down deep in the soil.
And they're ancient grains, which, by the way, is our commodity topic in March, first Saturday, when we've talked to your son-in-law, Travis, to hang out with us and talk about it. And possibly your brother, if he's available as well.
That'd be awesome.
Well, and that's one of the things it's what you said has reminded me of this because I thought about it before the show started. Grain R&D is actually a representation of the past and the future because the grains that you're mostly milling and managing and coordinating with other farmers to grow are quote unquote ancient grains from the past. Yeah. Grains that have a history as rich as the Fertile Crescent. Yeah. And then you've got this modern day mill facility that you even host parties and your second daughter's
wedding,
recent wedding. You have 3 daughters. Yeah. So to me, it's such a synergy between the past and the present and the future. And I see other companies like this emerging, which is so exciting to me. Good segue to question number 3. The Sossaman family farm history serves as a bridge to the past and the future. I kind of maybe just gave the whole story away. What's your counsel from the Sossaman perspective? You've given great counsel in the last few minutes on this generational farming, but what's your perspective of this bridge to the past and the future?
Well, one of the things I learned in working with other people and organizations, town of Queen Creek, Arizona State University, which is up the road, the Polytechnic School, is when you're approached by someone to say, hey, what do you think? My first answer has always been yes. Yes, and why not?
Right.
And it's not a flippant answer. It says, yes, I want to learn more. Yes, I want to be innovative. Yes, I want to see it be successful. So you take that leap of faith. And it's not a blind leap, trust me. You do some research, but the first answer should be yes, I want to try that, versus nope, granddaddy did it this way, so I will too. Well, that's fine.
You're almost, when you say it or approach it that way, you're almost setting a platform for let's learn and discover, and maybe we will land on something that's going to be not only innovative, but that's going to add to the bottom line.
Well, it can.
Yeah.
And if you look at it that way, and so one of the major words that we have on our signage for grain R&D is collaborate. So when you collaborate, everybody can benefit from that. And that's one of the things that we found out during our journey through growing ancient grains, is that there were some players in America that said, oh, I have a variety and I'm not giving it up.
Oh.
They wanted to be the only one with a certain variety. Well, guess what? We found ways around that. And we said, we're not going to be those people. We're going to be the opposite. Anybody that wants to get into this business, anybody that wants to grow this, come see us. We will mentor you. We will show you. We will open the doors. We will show you how we did it. We'd love you to be successful where you are.
Can I ask how many farmers are maybe growing? I know one of them because I interviewed him last year for Talk to a Farmer Friday, actually around this time, Mr. Hiscox.
Yeah.
What's the average? Are there what? A handful of farmers?
Yeah, usually a
About
handful. Three to four.
Yeah. I know that Jana Anderson for a while was doing it. Is she still?
Oh, Jenna? Yeah.
Or Jenna,
Yeah. She did some.
Not in a while.
No, well,
yes, she did. She did.
Yeah.
We bought her grain and sold her seed.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Now, are you guys growing any of your own grain
Yes.
at all?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. We've got
Just
this year.
right out here?
We've got emmer, which is the oldest, it's a relic. It's the
really?
oldest known grain in the world.
We'll have to go out there and.
It's called Jesus wheat.
Jesus wheat.
Jesus
awesome.
wheat. No, that's what it's known as. And if you read in the Bible, and they had to store their wheat and had the famine, and that was the wheat that they had.
Wow.
And so it's very old. And Travis has gone to some of the microbrews, and they want to incorporate that into their beer as if it was like treat it like a barley, have it malted and then put it in beer. So that's a brand new enterprise we're trying this year.
So I want to try some of the Jesus beer. When you guys
that will be yes, love that. Another one that Travis found, and you have to kind of be a detective when you're going about finding some of these varieties, because some are known and some are not known. And so Napoleon goes into Moscow in the middle of the winter, and it's not working out really well. Loses horses, loses men. They're only there 5 or 6 months. They really are. It's big in history, but they were like, okay, we're freezing. Let's leave. On their way out, soldiers found sacks of wheat seed. They grabbed it, took it with them back to France, and they went down into the Bordeaux region of France, where it's kind of warm, and planted that. And it's a bread wheat. And it's called Rouge Bordeaux, red Bordeaux, red wheat Bordeaux.
Cool.
So Travis found that, and his Russian heritage, he's thinking, hey,
because he's a
Tomolchov.
Okay.
Yes,
which
Tomolchov.
Is a farm family as well.
Yeah, in Glendale. You betcha.
Okay.
So anyway, that is one of the varieties now that craft millers and bread makers like, hey, this is flavorful. It works well making bread. So, hey, could you supply us?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that you look at.
So fun.
And collaborating with others and other mills in Texas, up in Washington, in California, you find out there's not a lot of people out there. So this community, which I like to call the grain community, we talk to each other and we encourage each other. And then like the beer community, the craft brewers get together and they do collabs. And it's like, yeah, you bring your guys in, we'll do this, do that. We kind of modeled off of that. Let's help each other.
Right.
Let's not worry about our slice of the pie. Let's just make the pie bigger.
Right.
And so that's what it's about. And also the transition in a farm or a farm enterprise is diversification.
Yeah.
We hear it all about in financial portfolios, but it should be on a farm level or a family business level. How can we diversify? What other things can we do to supplement income and innovation? Or a family member that says, listen, I don't really want to milk cows all day, but you know what I'd like to do? Make cheese.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What kind of cheese? I want to get goats. Okay, we'll do goat cheese, or we'll do sheep cheese, or something a little different.
Just like your investments, if you have all your eggs, the pun is so common, it's almost embarrassing to use, but your eggs in one basket. But if that particular egg is down in the market, you're not doing anything with your investments. And the biggest challenge with agriculture is the cash flow.
Yeah.
So you've always got to have it. Now,
Get more baskets.
get more baskets. Okay. So this is, I don't know if this is a tough question, but you once mentioned to me that farm acre loss to development is not what we think. Talk about that.
Well, yes. Ag statistics, we look at 72 million acres of ground under agriculture. Now that includes cattle ranches. So the vast majority of cattle ranches.
And then you're talking about just...
I'm talking about state of Arizona.
Okay.
So let's look state of Arizona. Yeah. And a lot of it on the tribal grounds. Okay. So let's just get down into cropland. So crops, and not citrus, not orchard or anything,
like
but
our cotton, wheat,
and vegetables and all that. So around about 540,000 acres. Okay. Now, what happens is ground gets moved or used up inside of Maricopa County, urban expansion. Then that farmer either stops or leaves. A lot of the ones I know have all went somewhere else. They went down to Pinal County, went to Yuma County. And for example, in Pinal County, there's some farmland down there that was in disrepair. It never really had really good farmers or enough money to make it fertile. Well, once they've sold land up here or in Maricopa, they take their innovation, they take their cash, new ditches, new leveling, make that ground productive, and now they're productive in another area. Now, we have lost, I would say, about 20,000 acres, 20 to 30,000 acres in the last 5 years.
20 to 30,000 acres.
But we still have a plus 500,000 in Arizona. And that really has not changed a whole lot in the big picture of, say, the last 40, 50 years.
Wow. Do you think it will change more? And then the other thing that happens is we've improved our yields,
yes.
Which is, you know, if we're not in agriculture, you think, what do you mean yield? And we measure everything by the acre, which is basically a football field. But it means that we can produce more cotton today in that same acre, that same football field, sometimes 2 to 3 to 4 times more. So does that help it as well?
That helps it also because now the investment is happening on the most productive land and being put into that land to make it more productive, not wearing it out. I mean, if people come out, oh, you wear out your land. That's like, we're over 100 years old and we're very productive because we use manure, we use legumes, we use, I mean, you hear this, bioidentical, we hear sustainability, all the terms you use, minimum tillage. We adopt that.
Yeah.
We use that. We're not here to kill our environment in which we need that to grow.
So that field out there, the Ammer, the Jesus wheat.
The Jesus wheat.
You grew vegetables on it over 100 years ago.
Yep.
And now you're doing Jesus wheat out there.
Yeah.
So you've done something right with the soil.
It's very productive. We test our soil. We know what we're putting on it. And it is still productive today. We call this monkey ground around here because a monkey could farm this.
Yeah. And even though the urban arena is growing up around you, and the Sossmans, you've sold some of your land.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Are you going to hold on to
a little? Yeah, and it's not happening overnight. I mean, people look at it and go, "Oh my goodness, you zoned a piece of ground." Well, yeah, I'm protecting my family's legacy.
Sure.
Because it is a political process, and if you don't have a blueprint plan for the family plan, then I'm gone out of the picture, and they go, well, "What did he want to do?" So that's part of the communication. We have the blueprint now. Over time, if somebody says, "Listen, we're done with this whole farming thing,"
you're gonna be prepared for it. The family is prepared.
The family's prepared for it.
Okay.
So that's part of that communication, that legacy, and then ever-changing process of what we're doing here.
But going back to what you were saying, that the reality is that we haven't lost. Is it fair for me to say we haven't lost ground to development?
Oh no, we have.
We have. Okay, so how should I say that?
Well, let's just say it's shifted.
Okay,
we've shifted away from the urban centers
okay.
to more rural areas. And some of that land, you're saying, well, wasn't that land always there? Yes, but it's not being farmed because lack of water, lack of investment to put concrete ditches, to level the ground. to make it productive.
Okay. Okay. So maybe a better way to say that is where we see our,
Yeah.
you can see my brain
I
trying to
know.
work this one out. Where we see ourself farming today is not where we were farming yesterday, but acreage wise,
Yeah, it hasn't changed a lot.
maybe like I think you said 20 to 40,000
Yeah.
for sure has gone away.
Yeah.
So this just, I have to tell you, Steve, that's why I love to talk to your family. You guys just make me hopeful.
Yeah. Well, I think, and Arizona Ag Statistics Service, plug for them, are very good. They track everything on every crop, everywhere. Right. It's a great source of information.
Yeah.
So
I call them my numbers guys.
Yes.
And gals.
And they're good at it.
They are. How hopeful are you about Arizona's agriculture future then? I've talked about, I've asked you what you think is going on, but how hopeful are you?
I am extremely hopeful because of people like my son-in-law who are very bright, innovative, and do research, and they're not afraid of technology. I mean, it's at their fingertips constantly. They grew up with it. My grandkids, I think there's a lobe in their brain that is, I go to them to get help on my phone. Like, I need this app. Oh, Opa. I'm like, whoa, what did you just do?
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's your oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful in that arena. Fingertips. Information is at our fingertips constantly.
Yeah.
The stuff that we do here, Travis goes, well, what about this and this? I said, well, let's just go look that up. Oh, there's a YouTube video, or there's a parts thing, or we can get those parts here and there.
Right.
So very efficient at doing that.
And much more immediate.
Much more immediate, which saves time, money, and effort.
Right.
More efficient use of your capital,
both
human and financial, and the willingness to do it. And that's the key. Do not get stuck in a rut. Just because you're over a certain age, don't get stuck in a rut. And just say, listen, the next generation, they're smart. Ask them.
Yeah.
I'm not, and like I've said in some of the other presentations we've done with this Grain R&D, is this first time in my life starting this enterprise, I get to taste bread that I grew the grain for, and I get to taste the beer that the grains went into. Versus, I grew cotton. I have no idea where the genes are.
No idea if the genes you're wearing.
Or I grew some alfalfa and it went to a cow, and now I'm eating cottage cheese and milk. Okay, that's great. But this is much more satisfying, and I get to see the person using that product. I get to meet the baker, the miller, the brewer.
Right.
And it's so much fun. Because, Travis and I, we actually have to go out and do quality control.
Right.
I'm going to talk Wilderness Brewing and Wren House and the shop. I mean, I love church music.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, product placement there. So to me, that's more fun and more exciting than, we're cutting hay today and we're going to feed a cow. Yeah. Okay, I love cows. It's okay. Right. They have 4 stomachs. What's wrong with that? So,
and farming in general is fascinating. Yeah, it can get tedious.
It can get tedious,
it is
and with weather that we have here in Arizona, it's fun you'll see how that works. But I'm hopeful because the technology and the willingness of the next generation to use that technology and not be afraid of it.
That's awesome. Pausing. This is Julie Murphy with Arizona Farm Bureau for Talk to a Farmer Friday. I'm speaking with Steve Sossaman, and we're talking about the future. And Mr. Sossaman is making me excited about what's going on in Arizona and the potential for a future. The other thing, I've got one question for you, and then I am going to, please, Travis, come in, and because I have a question for you. But on water, can we see a positive way forward for this desert state?
Yes, we can. I'm very confident that back in the 80s, when we had the Groundwater Act enacted, and we got the CAP canal brought into Arizona with federal funds. And that was a huge step in the right direction. We had a legislature and a governor that all worked together to solve that issue and to set up what we have now is our framework for managing water. Now, here we are 50 years later, and I still think that with innovation, with technology, we have the will, should we speak, to continue to manage that precious resource that we have. I'm president of the irrigation district out here, so we're very close to that. Last year, we lost half of our water allotment.
Wow.
So as a farming area out here, we only had about 40 to 50% in production. It was very scary. We are better this year, okay? But I think we'll find our way through this. It's going to be a political exercise. We're going to be hearing about a lot of stuff, and there will be certain bills that are brought forward, and a lot of them won't go anywhere. But there are probably a few that have support from both sides of the aisle, we call it, both parties, and also from the governor's office, which is very important.
Right.
And our organizations, our ag organizations, our cities get together. I think it's real important that everybody give and take about this, and compromise is the key.
Make it work for everyone.
Again, we're getting back to what? Communication.
Right.
Just communicate. Keep those lines open. May not be what you want today, but you can work on it and work through agencies and through Farm Bureau is a great one to do these things with. But I have confidence that we will.
Are you the Roosevelt Irrigation?
Queen Creek.
Queen Creek, okay.
The QC.
The QC. So, Travis, why don't you come right in the middle of us, and when I ask you a question, I'll just lift the mic up or let you hold it. Or so. Now, can you see all three of us? Ooh, cool. So, my question to you is: are you excited about all this gig? You represent the fifth generation, or the fifth.
Yes, because so I think our kids would be the sixth.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's fun. It's not anything crazy. It's, hey, let's grow something, and we found an opportunity. I'm gonna say Taylor helped me. My wife helped me a lot too, because we were 10 years ago running farmers markets for Hayden. Just pop up tent and out of the back of a car, like, hey, we're going to sell flour and grow and try and grow that business that way. And then kind of had the idea, like, what if brewers and malters and distillers wanted to use this?
Okay.
Like, okay, what if there's flavor that bakers and millers like? Does it translate? And it did. So it's been a fun project. It's something I never would have picked.
Okay, so you never would have picked it.
What's your background, though?
What's your background? Yeah.
So Sun Devil first. So I have a degree in design and urban planning. So I guess it kind of ties in if and when the farm shrinks and we develop that. But I've done everything from cooking in restaurants to running a car dealership to now cleaning grain.
So when your father-in-law, Steve here, kind of approached you, because I'm taking that was part of it, were you going, no?
So that everyone's like, oh, what's it like working for your father-in-law?
He stays away as much as possible.
Is that hard? Is it fun? Do you hate it? Like, no, we're actually really good friends.
That's awesome.
No, it's great. Well, we can hang out and have a cocktail or a beer together and contemplate life, and a great mentor as far as teaching. And one thing that Steve said years ago, and I will never forget it, and I tell people it as often as I can: never be the smartest person in the room. That's my thing. So again, and like Steve said earlier, I like to ask questions. I say yes and make a educated answer. Where I'm like, okay, what if I can learn? And so that's kind of my thing. It's just never be the smartest. Surround yourself with smarter or just different people and get different viewpoints. And then there's ways to innovate where we can innovate here, build a new building, different equipment, and then if we have the opportunity, the next step would be, hey, let's put a malting facility in where we can now add more value to crops that we're growing, and just let's keep it going.
And even if you are the smartest one in the room, humility extends your brilliance, because
you never want to be the smartest.
Yeah, you just don't want to be the smartest.
No light on it. You might be on one subject.
On one subject. How fun is this? So, and I get a vibe then you're as much as Steve, kind of the product tester for a lot of these products, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, it's fun. It's kind of great. Go and make deliveries to breweries and hey, try this. We just made this beer with your grain in it. And it's a shame that I have a fridge full of beer
Yeah.
that they just give, and it sits there. And
Yeah.
Are you sharing any samples today?
go for it.
So one last question, because we've kind of exceeded our 30 minutes, but you guys, this has been a fascinating.
We go for another hour.
Yeah,
but
we could go for
no,
another
but
hour.
we won't.
This has been a
Part
fascinating interview, and I think I have to come back again to just chat with you more. And then thank you for your commitment to March. That will be fun on
Wow,
Rosie.
I confirmed the commitment
On live.
Instagram, so now everyone's okay.
So now
Okay.
everyone
All right.
knows it. But oh my gosh, I just kind of forgot what your new business, the brewery.
Not
Not a brewery.
No.
Our next business that we want to get into is malting. So
Okay.
So it'd be us taking the grain, we can clean it, process it here, and then if we put a malt house on site, then now we're taking a commodity and we don't have to move it, but we can value add on site. Again, it's the vertical integration. How can we take a low value crop and keep adding value to it? So we can do it by cleaning it to food grade standards, and now we will be able to do it by malting it. Now it's more accessible for a brewer and a distiller to use.
Okay.
And selling grain to a feedlot versus selling grain to a brewery, a little bit different numbers.
Yeah.
And a lot more fun.
Well, more fun, and
Yeah.
it takes a big investment. But again, like what Steve was saying earlier, is it allows us we can taste, see, touch a finished product that we know we grew here.
Wow.
And so it's a fun little story.
It's an amazing story. And Steve and Travis, thank you so much. And I will come back. We need to talk more too as well. But congratulations on being a legacy farm. And
Thank you.
And this isn't just about you. It's about your parents. I adore your parents. It's about your grandparents. It's about your great grandparents. I'm just so proud of you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
And this is Julie Murphy with Talk to a Farmer Friday. Blessings to you all, and we'll see you next Friday.